amazing. Who else is here? Deb, Nina, Jeffrey, Charlene, Laura, Deborah, Tanner, our staff, Oksana. So nice. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's like totally amazing. But more facts. Buddy, I just so you all know why it's so moving to see Buddy is because way back in like 1970 when a long time ago, when we first started the herbal, very herbal, beginning herbal conferences, Buddy was the hurdy-gurdy man. He would step out and just join us, bring us all together in song. And Jade and I have just known him for like over 40 years, maybe longer even.
Might even be longer.
So yeah, that's why it was just so exciting. So sorry for that moment, but we couldn't help it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, welcome everybody. It's Giving Tuesday. My name is Susan Leopold. I'm the Executive Director of United Plant Savers. And I just want to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to join us and really highlight the work of the organization. I mean, as we wrap up, 2024, we're celebrating 30 years of United Plant Savers since it was founded, and I think that's super significant. And it's been a year of really trying to engage our membership, get people excited about the organization and things that we're doing, looking ahead. And each year we kind of focus on an aspect of the organization in our end of the year fundraiser. And this year it's really highlighting the work and achievement of our Botanical Sanctuary Network. And currently we have just over 300 registered botanical sanctuaries across the United States, which I think is super significant. And one of the things that we're highlighting this year, and this is the first time we've ever done this, is this really beautiful planner that we put together that highlights the cycles of the moon. It highlights opportunities for you to write about your sanctuary or to dream your sanctuary into being. And throughout the book, it features all kinds of artwork from our artist fellows, from our Deep Ecology Artist Fellowship Residency Program. And, and it's got this great thing on the back with our logo, our sign that we send out when you become a botanical sanctuary. And the one thing that's super exciting, I put a lot of time into sourcing that this be printed on 100% hemp paper. So it's hard to capture in pictures, but it's so beautiful. And one aspect of the planner is that my daughter, and you can purchase the the print on demand. She drew this beautiful moon calendar, which features the night blooming cactus up top, and it has all the at-risk medicinal plants at the bottom. Yeah, so it's super special. And last night we were in my living room and we were hand printing these beautiful prints and screen printing, so they're all unique and individual. And anybody that purchases the planner online and donates on this Zoom call, I'm going to be sending them a print. So that's some inspiration for today. And a big part of doing this Zoom call was really for people to ask questions. We'll take some questions at the end, but also to really highlight, get to know the organization and our staff and what we do. And so I'd like to just turn it over to our staff who are down in Rutland, Ohio at our Botanical Sanctuary, and let them just briefly introduce themselves and say what they do at the sanctuary. I guess you could start, Tanner.
All right, thanks. My name's Tanner Filia. I am the Forest Program Manager here for United Plant Savers. Kind of manage a lot of our grant programs and projects and help work with the propagation team here to produce planting stock and educational content around forest farming and medicinal plant conservation.
I'm Alexis. I work in the office here, and I help with a lot of the day-to-day operations, whether it's like membership questions or the seed and root sale, a lot of online store things, and I get to greet a lot of the visitors that stop by. So I feel great to be involved.
Hi, everybody. My name's Chip Carroll. I'm the sanctuary steward at United Plant Savers. I've been involved here at the sanctuary since I did my college internship in around 1997, and I'm very fortunate to still be here. A large part of my work involves greeting people when they come, giving tours, and engaging with the community in public speaking about United Plant Savers work, and of course, overseeing a lot of what takes place here at the Botanical Sanctuary.
Thank you, Chip. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And some really exciting news with the organization. I mean, we're really expanding with being able to add a seed bank at the sanctuary, but also really increase our ability to propagate these medicinal plants. And that's been a really big focus. And one thing that the organization has done for many years is send golden seal roots in the fall, and also ginseng seeds, and also other spring seeds in the spring. And so really being able to propagate these plants, we hold multiple workshops on, teaching these tools to empower people to propagate these plants, to become forest farmers of botanicals for the supply chain. And so our ability to do these things is really growing exponentially. So if you haven't been to the sanctuary, we really encourage you to come. One of the recent studies that I think is a really great resource and a really important study to know about is NatureServe did a state of the biodiversity of North America. They published this report about 2 years ago, and we'll put that in the chat. And it really is a wonderful study that really highlights what's going on with biodiversity across North America. And what that study conveys is that 34% of all native plant species are threatened with extinction in the United States. And that's, kind of a pretty intense percentage, and what we're, facing as a biodiversity crisis. Another really important study that came out from the National Science Foundation was the fact that we have a dire need for native seeds to be able to do the restoration that's necessary to restore biodiversity and ecosystems. And, one aspect of United Plant Savers that makes us really unique, a lot of seed banks that are in, process in the United States are really focused on extremely endangered plants. And sort of the vision behind United Plant Savers is that if we actively engage before plants become endangered, and we really focus on these medicinal plants, we're not kind of in triage, right? So I think that's what really makes, the work of United Plant Savers extremely, extremely unique. And, the theme behind, biodiversity begins with us is that we're sort of, the organization that kind of is a vessel for the network. And what we're really trying to do is to provide the resources, knowledge, education, network to encourage people and to uplift each other in our efforts to connect more with the biodiversity that's outside our doors, that's connected to our communities, to our food systems, to our medicinal plants. And so one thing that I really wanted Rosemary to do in this call is to really speak about kind of, how the sanctuary came into being, and really, and from that, how the idea for the Botanical Sanctuary network came about. So putting you on the spot.
Okay, good. I know what I'm supposed to talk about. Yeah, thank you so much. I really want to thank Susan and all of our past executive directors. We've had three executive directors since the organization started, and each one stepped in when we definitely needed them and brought special gifts to the organization. And Susan has been extraordinary in every way. I really can't thank her enough. She's brilliant, she's dedicated, and she's so committed to the mission and the plants. And I also want to take a moment to really deeply, gratefully thank all of the staff members down at the sanctuary for just holding that space so sacred. So I get to do a little storytelling, and I wanted to share that when we were just a seed, when United Plant Savers was just starting and we hadn't even really started to sprout, we were meeting down at an extraordinary green man, the Paul Strauss's farm, Equinox Botanicals. And Paul played a very major part in the foundation of this organization. And so he was open, he would let us come down there, we'd have our meetings there because we really wanted to meet on the land. And, and when we were first forming our ideas and trying to come together, and at that time, so this was very, very early on, almost 30 years ago, right? At that time, the farm right next to Paul was very good friends with these people. It came up for sale. And of course, we immediately wanted to protect this land because it was loaded with all of these at-risk plants. They just grew there, and this property had not been poached, which was extraordinary in that area. So there was just still beautiful stands of golden seal and ginseng, black and blue cohosh, bloodroot, and on, all of the eastern hardwood forest plants were there and in large populations. So it was, really, really needed to have good stewardship. But we were a young organization and the land was priced very reasonably. If I remember correctly, it was like $300. It was under $400,000, but we didn't have the money to do it. So this is a moment, I like to say, whenever, it's an old saying, where there's a will, there is a way. But this story I want to tell, I really think should be enshrined in the history of United Plant Savers, and all the members should know it because it was remarkable. So we were having a small gathering, and a small group of people had come, just in the very beginning of UPS. And one morning, Richard Liebman, the first executive director, Paul Strauss, myself, and a wonderful gentleman named Michael Funk got up early to take a walk. And Michael was, he's key to the story. He was a very successful businessman. He had formed a holistic food distributing company in California in the early days, and he'd been very successful. And so we were all walking and dreaming, like, how could we get this farm? And we stopped on a little rise looking down at this beautiful valley where the farm was. And at that moment, the sun just came beaming through the trees, and there was a large old pawpaw standing there, pawpaw tree loaded with ripe pawpaws. And the light hit the pawpaw. Paul reaches up and grabs the pawpaw, hands it to Michael. Michael takes a bite, and the juice is running down his face. And he goes, "How much? How much do you need?" And he, at that moment, committed to buying that farm for United Plant Savers. So it gives me the chills to think about it. I'm so grateful for him, and grateful that for the pawpaw and the sun and that morning, and for the dream that came. And, for us, partly it was protecting the land and the plants, but also recognizing the sacredness, and which is why we called it the sanctuary, because it's that holiness that land has, and the respect for the land and the preservation for the plants that we really wanted to manifest. It was a core mission, really, of our organization. Right off, what happened? So that was kind of the beginning, became our homeland, our heartland, and also a place where we could really grow the organization. But right off from the very beginning, I recognized the way all land does, like if you have an acre of land or a house, and certainly if you have a farm, it demands a lot of attention. And we were a young organization trying to figure everything out, right? So we found so much of our resources financially, our energy, our time was being consumed by the sanctuary, by this beautiful 300+ acre farm that we had just inherited. But we were a member organization. Like, our first responsibility were to our members. And I picked it up right away, like, I love that we bought this farm. This farm has a long-term vision for United Plant Savers. But it was really essential not to forget our members in this. Many of our members, especially back then, were never going to be able to get out to the sanctuary. So I started envisioning this idea where we could put together like a sanctuary program and inspire our members to look at their backyards or their farms or their, it didn't matter. We really wanted to create a model where even just in the cities, which probably mean more spiritual awakening, even that land, because it's not always been treated really well, right? So a model that our members, even those who lived in cities or lived in towns or had small backyards or large farms or large lands, could use this model to look at their land and create like a repository for native plants. You know, take a corner of their garden, take a corner of their lot, or take a big field and just let it go back to wildflowers, you know. So that's how the Sanctuary Network, and right off, you know, we've got the whole organization, of course, got very excited about it. And it's been beautiful to watch the membership grow, you know, to have 300 sanctuaries, kind of like I always envision like a green quilt covering, you know, the North American continent. But 300 isn't enough, right? We need every member to look at our backyard as a sanctuary. And really, you know, it's just such a wonderful, wonderful thing. So for all of you who are sanctuary members, I just want to say thank you so much. And for those of us who aren't, it's a really good idea. Look at our backyard, you know, and we get a great sign, we get all the support. It's wonderful. And Jane is a surprise for you all. Jane is one of my oldest friends. I have known her really literally for over 50 years, I think, right?
Yeah.
Close. And she also has been an active member of United Plant Savers and board member since its very beginning. So she just has happened to be here visiting with me, and I just asked her to join us and just share a little about her sanctuary and whatever wise words, honey.
Well, it's great to be part of all of you all, and thank you for joining us here today. And again, thank you to Susan and everybody at the sanctuary for your amazing caretaking. And when I first heard about the opportunity to become a UPS sanctuary, I thought, well, I just have a small piece of land and I'm not so sure that I could, you know, really fit into this big concept of a sanctuary. And then I talked to Rosemary about it and she goes, of course. And then I thought about it and I joined as a sanctuary, and I realized that what that is, it's an honoring of the sacredness of the land where we are. Whether that's, you know, an apartment building and, you know, a tiny little piece of land, or whether you have 500 acres. And then when you get that beautiful sign in the mail and you put that up, it's a reminder every time you see it of the sacredness of this planet that we're on. And the beautiful connection that this creates with all of the rest of us that are so impassioned and enlivened about plants and about protecting plants and about being together and creating biodiversity and contributing to that. And I do have an herb school, which I'm not really running for the most part now. I've passed it on to my students, but it's still on my property. So I have had many, many decades of students coming through, and they'll all see that sign, you know, they'll say, oh, you know, and I say, well, you can become a United Plant Savers sanctuary too. And they'll say, well, you know, I live in a cul-de-sac with this tiny piece of property. I said, that doesn't matter. You know, it's still about connection to each other and connection to the land and support of this amazing organization. So thank you for your vision always, Rosemary, and thank you to everyone else who contribute and will contribute to carrying this forward. Thank you.
You know, I wanted to add something onto what Jane was saying. Very early on, one of our very first sanctuaries was started by Kathleen Yavenskis, who was also a very early member, and she lived in Boston. She lived in downtown Boston.
That's right.
And she took her backyard and took a small part of it and started planting native plants. She did a little research to see what plants were originally growing in that area. And so she planted this, not even her whole backyard, but, you know, she started off with about a quarter of her backyard. And she immediately began to notice the minute she started planting those plants was that she had more visitors, more pollinators, more frogs, more insects, butterflies and birds. Because the thing about it is, when we respect our plants, respect our land and preserve the plants, we are creating the sanctuary for all other life forms because everything depends on the plants and on the land. And so, and then she continued to plant that backyard, and pretty soon all of her neighbors are coming over to see this yard that was, just humming with life. So that is the other beautiful thing, you can start very small, you can put a few of the native plants, and you're going to have more butterflies, more bees, more birds, and then more neighbors going, what are you doing here? So it really does become a living sanctuary, like we're just awakening the land beneath our feet by honoring it. It's actually quite simple. It takes a lot of work. As we all know, everybody who gardens, it does take a lot of work, but it is good, heartful, fulfilling work. There's nothing better. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it speaks to that, the power of like manifestation. I was recently at a conference at the Atlanta Botanical Gardens for the Southeast rare plants, and one of the speakers, who's very like, scientist oriented, he stopped and he kind of, said that even though Florida is not like the best habitat for panthers, they're most prevalent in Florida because people in Florida love panthers. And I just thought that was like the most unusual thing coming from him, this like really esteemed scientist. And then I thought about it, and it's really it is so simple in that like you do attract things that you love. And the more awareness of, being passionate about medicinal plants, being aware of what's growing around you. And I think one of my favorite books is Kat Anderson's Tending the Wild, where really she really, in interviewing all these different California indigenous tribes, that really we increase biodiversity by how we interact with our environment. We are absolutely a part of increasing biodiversity. And I know that's kind of a shift because, we're constantly hearing, the perils that we're facing in the environment, but we can very much be a part of the solution. And it's really that deep connection that humans and plants have had for forever, right? I mean, these plants are our ancestors, and how we've interacted, and the diversity of plants around us are because of the interaction that humans have had with plants, and of course the interactions with all with all of the species that make up our ecosystems. And so I think one thing that's incredibly special about the journal that we put online for free, that goes out to all of our members, is that we tell these stories. People write in and tell their stories of botanical sanctuaries, and all of these stories are posted on our website. And I just thought I would put Emily on the spot because she's the caretaker of a really important botanical sanctuary, and I'll let her speak about how she goes about stewarding the Sage Mountain Botanical Sanctuary.
Thanks, Susan, and thanks, Rosemary and Jane. So good to see you, and big thanks to all the staff in the office in Ohio for holding it down there. And yeah, so sweet to hear those stories about Michael and the pawpaw and the sanctuary. Rosemary, thank you for helping keep us connected to the history of this movement that's now over 3,000 is our goal for today's call. No, 300 sanctuaries. That's really huge. Yeah, so I'm tuning in from unceded Abenaki territory, Sage Mountain Botanical Sanctuary. We have in total 600 acres here that we steward. That's a part of an 80,000 acre contiguous roadless forest. And we're working with a lot of our neighbors to grow this particular block of sanctuary and help keep it protected. Before living here in Vermont, I lived in the middle of downtown Orlando, Florida, and the first botanical sanctuary that I stewarded sounded a lot like that story of the sanctuary in Boston. A small plot at our urban herb school there, about 30 feet by 30 feet maybe, of jam-packed full with lots of native medicinal species that we were protecting. Because we were deep in the city, the Panthers did not visit that botanical sanctuary, but certainly some of our neighboring sanctuaries on the edges of town got their visit. So yeah, I think that I just want to, thank Rosemary and all of the elders that came before us, folks like Michael McGuffin and Stephen Foster and others watching over us from the other realms who've been a part of the board of United Plant Savers over the decades and just really instrumental in these seeds being planted in fertile soil and nourished and now blossoming and continuing to grow and spread. It is deep winter here at the sanctuary, so all of our plants are nestled in their white blankets for the next 6 months or so. But many of you have had an opportunity to visit Sage Mountain and whether taking classes from Rosemary or visiting in the years since, and just thinking about a lot of the work that we do as a sanctuary is working with other organizations like our State Department of Environmental Conservation, our State Department of Fish and Wildlife, groups like the Native Plant Trust to help document and create evidence of the plants that are here so that they can be part of the larger statewide scope of protected plants. We work with the agencies that protect ginseng to sort of evaluate the permit process and the resources there across the state. And we also work with groups like Rural Action and the Northeast Forest Farming Coalition, who we first connected with in Ohio at the plant sanctuary there to help other landowners here in Vermont and in New England learn how to do forest farming with some of these medicinals and create their own botanical sanctuary. So I just share some of those as reminders that even if there maybe is not another botanical sanctuary in your community that's working specifically with United Plant Savers, there are other agencies and organizations in each community that are working with protecting these plants. And I know for instance, Fish and Wildlife Department of Botany didn't really know that there was this whole subset of botanists that were working with medicinal plants, that herbalists were really trying to conserve these plants. And it's been really great to share resources and cross-pollinate, so to speak, and to teach those groups about the work of United Plant Savers and herbalists on the ground so that they can expand the work they're doing at the state level with the resources they have. So just sort of sharing that for those of you that do have sanctuaries or are considering joining the sanctuary network, just to realize that there are lots of resources in each community that can help support your sanctuary growing and thriving. And hope to visit you all in Ohio this year, and hope all of you that have the chance to come to Vermont will pay us a visit and visit the sanctuary here. Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. I see a few comments in the chat, and I just want to say it's pretty easy to join and be a part of the Botanical Sanctuary Network. There's an application on the website, and really the application is just a few questions, and there's no right or wrong answer. It really asks you to think about, what plants do you have growing at your sanctuary, and what plants do you hope to cultivate or to add to your sanctuary. And the third is really focused around what is your ideas or what are your aspirations for how you might share about your sanctuary in your community. Emily didn't mention, but she is doing all kinds of after school programs and summer programs from her local community that come out and learn about the sanctuary. And other people might be doing a guided hike, and if it's something that you want to keep private, that's absolutely okay as well. It's really just a kind of a framework to get you really thinking about and manifesting the botanical sanctuary, which was really where this idea came from. And in the past, we've just done like a print from a past artist as a way to contribute to, our end of the year fundraiser. But, the idea about, putting this planner together is that not only does it have like the information about the moon cycles and the months, but then there's, parts of the planner that allow you to draw what your garden might look like or what you want your garden to be. And then it asks, a lot of the questions that are in the the application. So it's kind of like a, a workbook, I guess, a place where you can just, write your ideas down. And I don't know, I think in this day and age, it's kind of nice just to get out the pen and paper and disconnect a little bit from the computer and, take the time to be outside and, write these ideas down and let yourself, create that space to dream into fruition, maybe these ideas or, little voices that, you've been thinking about, that you're really excited to make happen. I think another inspiration was Jane Holly Stevens came out with the Celestial Gardening book this year, and she's a huge UPS supporter, just a wonderful gardener, and grows most of the products that go into her herbal company. And I know for me, when I was just getting into herbs and actually started off as an organic farmer in Virginia with the CSA, I really learned from Jim Foltz, and he taught me how to grow medicinal plants on his farm. And he got me into the Llewellyn's book, and he was like, okay, we're gonna dive in, and this is the time of the month when you want to be germinating. This is the time when you want to be planting, when you want to be planting your greens, or when you want to be planting your roots. And I don't know, I was talking to Emily that maybe we would do some future webinars in 2025 about, how to really garden and to, really embrace the cycles of the moon, because it's dramatic when you tap into and you, you plant your seeds at a certain type of the month. The rate of germination increases dramatically. And I was so, it really had a huge influence on me and my path. So I think we all have these, mentors that kind of drop into your life at certain stages, that really enlighten you to how to connect with nature and plants in a way that becomes extremely meaningful. So I don't know if there's, I do see a lot of botanical sanctuaries who have joined in, which is super awesome. Just kind of scrolling through, but Rosemary, you waving your...
No, I just wanted to mention, Susan, if you could just share with the listeners, like some of the tools that we have for people who are sanctuary members, like what we offer them, because there's quite a bit of resources that we have available for people who become sanctuary members. So I don't know if you want to kind of list some of those so they know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly the website is an incredible resource. And when the Botanical Sanctuary Network was first founded, there was a lot of, workbooks that were put together that you can download, and, you can read some of these stories. I mean, they, with really good information about, how to create signage, how to do a trail, how to host an educational event. And then, beyond that, we also have, a lot of hands-on workshops at the sanctuary. I think we did, I don't know, probably 10 workshops last year at the sanctuary alone that go into detailing, how to propagate, golden seal and ginseng and ramps. And so we're constantly putting on educational events. So being part of the mailing list, being part of the membership is super key to stay up to date on, opportunities. And then of course, we love sending out roots and seeds to members so that they can increase the biodiversity on their property. And when you go on the UPS website, we have this like interactive map that really, lets you click on the state and you can see what botanical sanctuaries are near to you. And I think one thing about, this fundraiser and really putting the focus on the sanctuaries, of course, we want to be able to increase the number of sanctuaries. We want to be able to provide a scholarship if the sanctuary fee is a barrier to becoming a part of the network. It's $200, but that includes your signage. And that's really where the fee comes from. And I think we're at a real, I don't know, just imagine like who you were when you were 30 and what do you do in your 30s when you're approaching 40. It's really where you come into your potential, right, in a big way. And I really feel like we have this capacity now to network with our sanctuaries more, and to be able to teach classes like seed saving, and to really empower sanctuaries and to support them in taking it to the next level. So I think it's a super exciting time, and like I said, we're really at a point where over the next few years we're going to be expanding our capacity to propagate these medicinal plants, and to be able to offer a diversity of these plants, but also to be a place where people can come and learn how to propagate. I think one of the biggest challenges that we face, and I mentioned it with the seeds for restoration, and also with plant material for people who want to grow these plants for their own medicinal purposes, or to support companies trying to be more connected to their supply chain. We really need plant material. And so to be able to serve this purpose, and of course, we can be that, hub for Southeast Ohio, but we really have to have this network so that we can connect all these bioregional genetics. It's a super key component. So, again, the whole, kind of idea behind, biodiversity begins with us, is that we need to collaborate together to really make an impact for the native medicinal plants. And though financial support is super helpful, we're a small organization, and so the membership and all that goes really far within a small organization. But it's beyond the money, right? Money's not going to fix this. What's going to fix this is people connecting with each other, and people doing this work in their own communities, and people uplifting each other. And I think when people become a part of the Botanical Sanctuary and they put that sign up, it creates a vibe, and it does really give pause to really honoring the sacredness of how valuable these native plants are, not just for us, but for the bees and the birds and the insects. And so it's really that that element of nourishing our environment. And so I do feel like we do provide a tremendous amount of resources, and everything on our website is free to access. So even if you're not a member, we put our journals online as PDFs, and then of course we have the whole at-risk list and all the information about each one of these plants on the at-risk list. And so I really feel like we serve a super important niche, and there's really there's a lot of people doing good work, absolutely. But I feel like in regards to such a specific goal of conservation of at-risk native medicinal plants, we're super unique, and not just here in North America. We're really a model for around the world, and we play a big role at the IUCN within the medicinal plant specialist group. We play a big role in advocating for the conservation of these plants within CITES, the Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species. So I know I'm enjoying seeing everybody, and I'm really it's super yeah, it's super heartening to know that over 200 people joined us in the middle of the week on Tuesday to tune in and hopefully it's
is
been
great.
uplifting. And something that I said on the Instagram this morning was that the whole Giving Tuesday concept, it's really a great way to give pause and to really support not just United Plant Savers, but local organizations that you feel really tied to. Because in all honesty, being in an election year always is a difficult year for small businesses, for organizations. People are just kind of, it's easy to be kind of frozen in, the uncertainty. And so it's, not just United Plant Savers, but most organizations, donations are down, membership's down. And so, and certainly small businesses, all these things kind of are on the peripheral that really get affected in this 4-year cycle. So it's important to, to take pause and even if you can't donate, or even if it's a small donation, it goes a long way. Even a nice note, to an organization that you care about that says thank you. It really goes a long way, because as we know, the algorithms have changed and it's harder to reach people. And that's one reason why we've gone to doing more mailings and just trying to connect with people outside of the usual email and social stuff. So I think this is the first time we've ever really done a webinar like and super grateful that that people showed up.
The people came to our party.
Yeah, you came to the party. You came to the party. And if so, I don't know if there's, I think Emily or Rachel, you're going to help me with questions, but we could ask some of the, we got somebody from Switzerland. That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Speaking of international, hello from Switzerland. Thank you. Idaho Falls, Louisiana, British Columbia. Just looking through.
Susan, I wanted to add that if anybody needs a little bit of inspiration about the difference that one person can make, in their herbal work or in their community, is just to go online and read the stories of the sanctuary members. That's another thing I love so much, is just reading the stories of because that's one thing that when you become a sanctuary member, you can write the story of your sanctuary, and it's really, really inspiring to read those. I just want to encourage people to just take a look at that part of the site.
Mhm.
It's pretty awesome, and it gives you ideas for what you might want to do with your land or your sanctuary, but it is a wonderful read. I'd love to see that put into a book form sometime, quite honestly,
Right.
with all
Yeah.
kinds of photos from their sanctuaries. And it would make a really great book.
Mhm. Rosemary, would you just like to say a little bit about your upcoming book? Since you,
Well, this honestly wasn't a lead into my book.
I
but I'm
know, I
grateful.
know.
So, most of my books are like recipes and inspiration. It gets quite boring to write, but this is a very creative effort. And I really didn't write it. I was a collector. I gathered quotes and sayings and inspiration from my friends and put it into a book that's called The Generosity of Plants.
Mhm.
It's really it's an inspiration book, that you would open up and just read something wonderful that probably somebody that wrote. Because there's just a lot of quotes from my students or classes I'd be sitting in and take down note that somebody said that was just awesome to me. And then also quotes from elders and people from long ago. So it's kind of a mixture. And 10% of the sales of this book, which is quite a lot, will be gifted to United Plant Savers. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that it comes out in April. It's
And beautiful illustrations on every single page.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, they did a beautiful job. I
Mhm.
can't claim any credit for the layout, but they did do a beautiful job
Yeah.
with it. So yeah, and I'm really honored to give 10% of that, because it was a collection. It's not like I sat down and wrote that book. It was the same with Fireside, or 10% of that goes to the National Health Freedom Coalition, because it was a community effort to do these books, which make them even more fun. Thank you.
And we'll drop a link in the chat. And then Emily says she's got a few questions lined up. So go for it, Emily.
Yeah, so thanks everyone who's dropped questions in the chat. Please keep them coming. If we can't get to all of them before the webinar closes, I'm sure we can send some things out in the follow-up. And Rachel has been listing the links for how to donate. And if you make $100 donation, getting the planner and the beautiful moon calendar that Susan's daughter so beautifully shared. And I just want to alert you to some of the detail of those beautiful medicinal plants there. It's really gorgeous. So that link is in the chat. Rachel just posted the link for Rosemary's upcoming book. There's also links for learning more about the Botanical Sanctuary Network, as well as how to apply for the network. And when we send out the recording, we'll also send some of those links your way. But a couple of questions have come through, Susan and Rosemary and Jane. Hope you can help us enlighten us on some of these. There's a theme among questions. Is there a certain acreage for having a botanical sanctuary or expectation? Is a suburban backyard okay? Are there any obligations or expectations for joining the sanctuary network?
Well, I'm happy to. No, there's no expectation as far as the size of the sanctuary. So it's really just having the vision to create an oasis of botanical diversity. So and we've not only have we had like small urban people join, we've also had community gardens join. So it's we've also had neighborhoods come together and designate a small area within their neighborhood as a botanical sanctuary, urban sanctuaries, farm sanctuaries. So yeah, there's really no parameters, and there's no legal ties or commitments. I mean, often botanical sanctuaries sell, and it's all part of it. So yeah, so that's.
Yeah. If anything, I would like to really, and I think we've talked about this earlier, is to encourage people who have small backyards in towns and cities to really look at the excitement and adventure turning a small plot into a sanctuary, and the effect that it has on the wildlife, truly, and on the neighborhood. It's kind of amazing, the stories that we've heard. So yeah, small or large, it's all land is sacred.
And planting just a few plants.
Yeah.
You don't have to really make a big project. A lot of times we think, oh, if I take that on, it's going to be a big project, but it can, plants evolve slowly and go season by season. And
that's a good reminder. Yeah.
Thank you all. Another theme among questions is just grappling with the changes of the climate and the warming of temperatures, the migration of insects, and a lot of sanctuaries are being impacted by these changes, losing hemlocks and ash trees in the forest, or seeing the depletion of the soil because of jumping worms, managing the ever present invasives that are moving into sanctuaries. And so just a couple of folks had kind of asked what information or resources might you share with sanctuaries about how to manage these aspects of having a botanical sanctuary?
Yeah, I mean, it's really unpredictable, how things are going to go. And I do think that's why there's such a huge effort to engage in seed saving. And a lot of these efforts have really sprung up over just the last couple of years. And Emily mentioned one, which is like the Native Plant Trust. That's sort of a group in New England that's really trying to be a catalyst for collecting really critical, important native seeds in that region. And the Atlanta Botanical Gardens is really kind of the hub for the Southeast version of the Plant Trust. And what people are looking at especially is collecting tree seeds. And like with the emerald ash borer, right? I mean, it really impacted the eastern region. But out west, the ash trees are really critical to riparian areas. And because they knew the emerald ash borer was coming, there was a huge effort within the Northwest states to get out ahead of it and collect those seeds, so that when the emerald ash borer comes, because it's already there in the Northwest, they have the genetic seeds to be able to replant those riparian areas, which are like so critical to the salmon and all these other components of keeping temperatures cooler in streams. And so I do feel like, you know, we can't really predict what is going to happen, but I'll also add this, that, you know, plants are extremely adaptable, and they've been here, you know, for a very long time. And we have so much to learn from them and how they're navigating this realm. And I think one thing that makes especially the Eastern Forest and the Southern Appalachian region so unique is that we have this incredible biodiversity. So I think there's ways to plug in to your local networks and reach out and find out what kind of seeds are important to save, especially tree species like the oak trees, and to, you know, to be proactive and connect with the Native Plant Society or other organizations, you know, that are you know, locally doing this work. And I guess, you know, like I said, the other part is that really we're all a part of this, you know, co-evolutionary dynamic. And you know, we're being, you know, we're witnesses in a way. And I do feel like being observant to what the plants are doing is really powerful, because they're very intelligent beings. I don't know.
I wanted to add to that, Susan. I feel like, you know, there's so many levels to answer that question, and you did such a great job, and especially living here. You know, I'm an Eastern transplant. I grew up in California. When I moved here to learn that these little hills out here on the East Coast were actually the size of, you know, the Himalayas, that they were enormous. And the ice age that was here just a few thousand years ago, it wasn't even so long ago in history, changed the entire landscape. You know, like every single plant that's here now was not here 10,000 years ago. And so there's a tremendous amount of flexibility that goes with life, right? There's a tremendous amount of trust that goes with living. And so, yeah, we absolutely have to use all the tools that we can right now. There are some really great tools, but we also have to trust that this earth has an agenda, and it's been going on so much longer than we are. Yeah, so we just do our part in holding it all together as much as we can. And then also, you know, like you were saying, Susan, these plants and Earth herself has such a remarkable intelligence, you know, so she's doing her work.
Yeah.
We just have to serve her.
Yeah.
Thank you both. A lot of folks have been asking about resources in their region. We have folks on the call from the desert Southwest and all over Turtle Island that are looking to connect with other sanctuaries. And Rachel put some information in the chat that I just want to lend your eye to. She shared the Botanical Sanctuary Network. You can go on there and see if there are other sanctuaries in your region. She also shared the monograph for each at-risk plant. The at-risk list is not itself geographically divided, but you will probably go on there and see some plants of your region that you might be familiar with. And also, if you link into each individual plant, there's a whole bunch of details about their typical habitat and where they're most at risk. And I just wanted to ask Susan, are there any other suggestions that you have for regional resources for finding out about medicinal plants in each person's area?
Yeah. I mean, the Nature Serve is, you know, every state has a Department of Heritage and Conservation, and then they contribute that data to Nature Serve. So, you know, being familiar with who are the botanists within your state that work for that specific department, and also, you know, the Native Plant Society in every state is a tremendous resource to connect with. And, certainly there are, and, botanical gardens, absolutely. More botanical gardens are focusing their energy and their resources towards conservation. So more and more botanical gardens are transforming, not to be just this place where you see the roses and the tulips and all those things, but they're really launching innovative conservation programs. This year alone, I got to go to the Chicago Botanical Gardens, and they're doing major work on prairie restoration of that of that area, and the tall grass prairies. And as I mentioned, the Atlanta Botanical Gardens. There's the Botanical Research Institute of Texas. So I do think more and more botanical gardens are playing a critical role. Anyways, I was just looking at the time, and we're closing up on an hour. And I don't know, I did this in a Zoom call before, and I'd like to try it again. I'm sure you guys have done it. It's like the waterfall effect. But I would really like to close out this webinar and thank everybody for attending, by asking everybody to write in the chat 1 or 2 plants that they're really grateful for on this Giving Tuesday. And if we do it all at the same time, right, then we'll just see all these plants do their waterfall.
You want to go first? And then
in the chat. And yeah, I think it's just 1, 2, 3, everybody just type it in at the same time, and then we'll just we'll just be so yeah, just go for it. Everybody can just end this call by
Oh, I have to go to chat.
Yeah, you have to go into
go into the chat.
You gotta go into the chat to share. Perils.
And so I'm just hoping we can just see this stream of plants.
You gotta do
Well,
it.
you kind of.
Oh, I
push it.
did. I thought I did.
Yeah.
Didn't I? What am I pushing? I don't know how to do this.
Oh, it'll get there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I push- I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
It's okay.
I
Oh,
know.
well, I'm pushing that.
Yeah.
It should send actually.
I know it should. Oh, well.
Oh, well. Well, thank you, everybody. I don't know if there's anything else, Rachel or Emily,
Anybody
that I'm
else do
missing. I should.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Okay.
We'll put it in the chat as well, but we did select 10 winners to receive the
Did I
herbal
win?
planner, because anybody who donated got entered into a raffle, and we randomly selected 10 people that are going to receive the planner. I don't know, Rachel, do you have that? Are you going to put it in the chat?
What's that?
We don't have it.
It's only going to her.
Yes.
Oh, why is that?
I don't know. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Just close it out.
But we can announce announce it in our email. If
Yeah,
everyone
we'll announce
subscribe
it
to our
in the
email. We will put the winners' names there.
Oh, you should, Jane.
Yeah.
You know what?
Oh,
Susan,
what?
could Jane offer a closing prayer for the
Yes,
group?
please. Yeah. And maybe a song. I don't know. I thought,
Yeah.
yes, please give us a closing prayer.
Well, maybe we could all just take a minute and take a few breaths and feel wherever your feet are, and notice that your feet can connect all the way down deep into the earth, and just breathe up that abundant healing energy that is so available at any time in any place. And also feel the connection that we all have to each other, and the gratitude that we have for being gifted this life on this amazing planet, and the incredible gratitude that we have for the plants that have spoken to us and to each of us for listening. And we ask for the strength and the courage, the compassion and the love to continue to carry out this work in a joyful, meaningful, loving way. Give thanks. Blessed be.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan, for all your
Yeah.
dedication. And Rachel, thank you so much for all the work holding us all together. Emily.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Lovely to see everybody.
Yeah. Great turnout.
And I happen to be here.
Yeah.
Bye, buddy. Okay. We're done.